Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Ndlovu. I am going to take you through DA12, which is Governance and Corporate Law. In this course, I'm just going to give you some guidelines as to what you need to know and understand for you to pass this exam. This is basically derived from my past experiences with some of your predecessors who undertook this course. There are some of the key notable mistakes which have been maybe recorded during my past experience, and I'm going to guide you as to how simple you can attack maybe any question, even how you can conduct your studies effectively vis-a-vis the aspect of you understanding governance and corporate law. So the starting point, gentlemen and ladies, is for you to understand what we are really dealing with here. Okay, you are basically dealing with the governance of a company. Okay, that is, you're supposed to know as a student from the incorporation of a company to the winding up of a company. I guarantee you all the Zika examinations are centered on the Zika syllabus. Nothing is beyond that. And everything is basically derived from the Zika manuals themselves. And hence my guide is basically premised on the Zika manuals themselves. Okay, now to start with, you are supposed to understand certain things. That when you are dealing with corporate governance, this course is basically training you how you are supposed to deal with company, maybe effective running of that particular company. Also, you're supposed to understand at what point the company can become liable and at what point the company can do A, B, C, or D. Further, you're supposed to understand how the employees of that particular company are supposed to operate. Okay? So before I go into the details of all that, I would like to introduce you to some few key notable issues which are supposed to be understood by yourselves. Okay, as far as corporate governance is concerned, colleagues, you are supposed to address your mind to the incorporation of it. The constitutive documents which are required when one is incorporating a company. Okay, this being corporate and governance law, you have to understand even the pieces of legislation which regulates the operation of this company. These are basically reduced to two for the purposes of your studies. We have got the Companies Insolvency Act of 2017. We also have the Companies Act of 2017. So if you are to deal with the Companies Act of 2017, understand some key provisions in that particular act. And these provisions are actually reduced for your own understanding in the Zika manual. They are key provisions which are actually in the Zika manual, which are supposed to address your mind to. As far as the winding up of a company, you look at the Corporate Insolvency Act of 2017 at your own time. But let me take you through some examination techniques which will be able to guide you in this journey. Okay, what you're supposed to have at the back of your mind is that this is a practical course. Okay, and this being a practical course, you will find yourself dealing with corporate governance systems and policies, which you are supposed to address your mind to. We are supposed to understand the types of companies and also the constitutive documents, which include the articles of association and all the documents incidental, okay, to the formation of a company. Okay, you are also supposed to look at share capital and also issues of loan capital. In a nutshell, understand the financing of a company, okay? And then you are supposed to consider certain things as you are dealing with corporate governance, okay? That is the rules relating to management, administration, and governance of a company. These are supposed to be on your fingertips, okay? You are supposed to understand also the rules relating to corporate insolvency. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no examination really which will basically exclude these issues. You must understand that is the incorporation of a company and also the lifespan of a company, how a company operates, how does a company function, who are the key players in a company, and also you're supposed to understand issues bordering on corporate insolvency. Now, this being the case, I want you to understand one thing, okay? Understand this and understand me very well. understand how a company is formed, the documents which are needed for a company formation, okay? And also understand the incidence of company formation. Once a company is formed at law, in the case of Solomon versus Solomon, which you already have in your Zika manual, a company becomes a persona at law, okay? This therefore means that that company begins or attains a legal status of a human being at law. It can do what you can do. That is to say, a company can own assets. So all the motor vehicles for the company are owned by the company, okay? A company also can own money. It can own all the assets. Basically, a company owns itself. And now you may ask me a question. Then why do a company have to employ people? Because a company has no hands. A company is considered to be born the moment a certificate of share capital is issued, okay? And a certificate of what? Incorporation is issued. So you are supposed to understand as a student how a company is formed, okay? You will need some certain documents to accompany your application which you are supposed to lodge at PACA. So once you understand how a company is formed, you are supposed also to understand that once a company is born, a company is issued what I may literally call a birth certificate. And that is the certificate of incorporation and the certificate of share capital. This makes a company a persona at law. It is a person just like you. Therefore, you have to understand one thing, that we've got two types of persons at law. These are a company, okay, that is an artificial person at law, but can also do what you do. And then you've got a natural person like yourself. You are able to enter into contracts if you're a person of age and you have sound mind and you have capacity to do so. So as a company is formed, it attains all those attributes which you already have. So company assets are owned by the company, okay? And the documents which basically regulate the company activities are the articles of association. These regulate how the company basically operates and conducts its activities. So this falls under the corporate governance, okay? It brings out some powers, okay, which the directors of that particular company have or possess. So you as a student for this course, you are supposed to address your mind without any prejudice to the aspect of company formation, company administration, which deals with issues of what? Company corporate governance, okay? How would you get it? Then you are supposed also to address your mind to incidents which can lead to the death of that company, which we call winding up, okay, or to the closure of that company. There are several of them. So you as a student of this course, you are supposed to address your mind, okay, to all these issues from incorporation to winding up. Once you do that, my colleague, you are home and dry. Now you may ask me a question, then why is that we fail, or maybe why is that you yourself as an individual, you failed this course before? I will give you some guides, okay? The reason why some of you fail, maybe you're one of them, is because you prepare late, okay? If you want to pass this course, the moment you enroll with Zika and you are given your number, the best thing you should do is to visit your library, okay? Get the books and start studying immediately. Look, if you wait until the exams are closed, you are duty bound to fail. I will not hide this from you. You are duty bound to fail. So I expect you that if you have already enrolled or you want to enroll for this course, get your materials in order, come up with a study timetable and start studying right away. Okay? If you have got any other concerns as to how the exams are set and everything, if you go to the Zika website, you will find that there are past papers there. Address your mind there and deal with some of the components which are contained in the Zika manual. We lecturers or instructors who are overseeing these courses, we don't do anything beyond the Zika manual. We are restricted and do not in any way disadvantage you as a student by bringing that which is outside the scope. So you have it from A to Z, but there are some other common mistakes which I'll try and address to you as I make this lecture series clear to you. Okay, you are supposed to understand certain things and allow me to look at them briefly so that you address your mind accordingly. When you see a question, okay, from Zika, they are what we call command words. Okay, command words will guide you as to what the examiner is expecting from you as a student. Okay, I'll give you an example. You have a word like analyze. in your mind, you must ask yourself a question. What am I expected to do? Don't just give a general overview. As you are answering that question, ask yourself this question. Have I done what the examiner wants from me? Okay. Once you are able to answer maybe to the affirmative that you have done what the examiner is expecting from you, you are good to go as a student. You would have done your best. Okay. For instance, a command word like analyze expects you to examine in detail to show the meaning and identify elements and the relationship between them for that particular topic. Okay. So I don't expect you to have difficulties with dealing with command words. Okay. You are also at liberty to sample the previous Zika papers. There is always a style with which examiners prefer when it comes to certain questions. Remember what I said from the beginning. You are dealing with the life of a company, and your employer will expect you to be diligent. And Zika is doing exactly that, preparing you for industry. This is a practical course, okay? And you are supposed to apply your mind without any restriction and guide the company and do that which ought to be done, okay? Because you owe a duty of care as an employee of that company, if you are to be. But for you to understand how these things work, don't approach this examination as a student. Don't do that. Approach this exam literally as an advisor, because most of these questions are basically advisory, okay? They are advisory questions which will demand you to exhibit high knowledge of the law and corporate governance principles. And these are easily available before you, okay? Refer to the Zika manual, refer to the Zika past papers, refer also to the sample answers provided for you, okay? If you ask maybe, for instance, in an exam to compare and contrast, you must understand, okay, the meaning of these two words. So don't just take things on the face value. No, don't. If you so do, you risk actually not answering the question, okay? For instance, I'll give you a clear example which I have noticed with concern. A question will ask you a question, okay, like compare the two. What most of you are fond of doing, you just bring maybe the similarities, okay? Or maybe that difference is only. You don't factor in both. So if such a question is posed to you by the examiner, you are supposed to look at the differences and also the similarities, okay? So I expect you to understand the meaning of the key command words which are usually used for this particular course. Define. Just give a precise meaning, okay? Describe. State the points of a topic. Give its characteristics and main features, okay? That is what will be expected of you, okay? Discuss. It means you've been given liberty to discuss, okay? Write about issues or topics in depth, in a structured way, okay? So there are several of them, okay? And I would expect you to basically address your mind to. Listen, as you are studying for this course, I would recommend that you treat your studies, okay, as if they were an extension of your job, if you're already working. Treat your studies as if they're an extension of your job. Don't pack your books and wait until it's too late, okay? These are just not ordinary exams. They are practical. So you must give a practical advice which will entail you passing. We are not just training you so that you just get a grade and move on. No. We want you to be of industry use. So have a practical approach to all these issues, okay? Do not take this course lightly, okay? Maybe you may need some reminder on this one. Professional examinations are different. They are not about the meaning of life. They are technical tests of proficiency. And that is what Zika expects from you, okay? They will not decide basically on whether you become a good governance professional or a chartered secretary. That will be decided by doing the job. You may get the grade in this course, but are you able to guide? Are you able to offer advice? These are some of the key issues which you must have as you are studying this course. And by treating the examinations as part of your job, you approach them differently. For instance, you ask yourself questions like, what do I need to know to... you not ask yourself some of these questions which are bordering on, maybe have I enough resources, materials to deliver a dissertation, or maybe have I got what it takes to get a C and move on. No. You study to know, Okay? And once you know and understand the principles, you'll be good. And trust me, every employer will want you.
Take your career prospects to the next level with Zika.
Our diploma in accountancy is an essential qualification if you're planning on entering the accounting profession.
The Zika tax program at both certificate and diploma level equips you with an enhanced understanding of the field of taxation.
Our diploma in public sector financial management is ideal for accountants or trainee accountants working in the public sector.
And CA Zambia, a respected designation designed to ensure that graduates are highly trained to hold senior positions in the workplace.
You can study through flexible options like self-study, as well as part-time or full-time through our accredited tuition providers.
Zika sponsors the top CA Zambia graduate to the One Young World Summit for Young Leaders and also offers scholarships to the top university accountancy graduates from recognized universities.
Visit zika.co.zm now for more information or find us on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Don't delay, your future awaits.
As you are studying and preparing for your examinations, you must have a study schedule, okay? Ensure that you have it and be disciplined enough to follow it, okay? It is one thing to have a schedule, and it is another thing to follow it. Prepare on time, follow it, okay? And I expect you to look at the cases and some of the statutes, which I've already mentioned, that is the Companies Act of 2017. Look at it. Even the Corporate Insolvency Act of 2017, look at it, okay, at your own time. Like I said, you'll be advising corporations, and that is not a small task. It's a huge task for you. So I expect you to really address your mind. Don't wait for the last minute. You may have challenges, okay? And what you're supposed to do is take some practice exams, as I've already said. Look at the Zika past papers, okay? Practice makes perfect. Address your mind, okay? Compare your answers with the sample answers which are already available. Okay, life has been made simple for you. Okay, because the more practice exams you take, the better prepared you will be for the exam. And by me saying that take practice exams, don't just take them by your eyes. You must have a notepad somewhere and allocate yourself some time. I'm going to answer this question paper from Zika, the past one. You attempt it as per instructions. Okay, read those instructions, which are on the question paper, and do as if you're actually in an exam setup. Write the paper, and thereafter you refer out to the solutions which have been made available to you. Don't start by going to the solution. That's a very big mistake. Okay? Because you may think that you already know when in fact not. So you read a topic and get a past paper. You look for a question in learning that topic in the past paper. After you've answered it, mark yourself using a sample answer. By so doing, you'll be good to go. Okay? Once you get maybe 60% or 70% after assessing yourself, and be honest by that way. Okay? Do not overgrade yourself. Okay? Be honest by that way. Attempt that question. Look at what you have written yourself. And as you're doing so, ask yourself if somebody was to read your paper, are they able to see what you have been writing? But some of you literally draw in the exam. And you expect the markers to see what you're writing. Be legible enough. Do what you can, okay, as a student. And you have a walk in the park in this course. Are we together? Because what happens, practicing DA12 exam questions ahead of time is the key to becoming an A student. Yes, it's the key. But the principles, listen, the principles are the same. What changes the characters and the scenarios? But the principles are simply the same. Okay, so what will change is basically how the phraseology of the questions will be like. But the principles are simply the same. What those who have cleared this course wrote were based on the principles which they found in the Zika manuals, and they also guided. So there's nothing different. And what you have to know is that this course is easy. Okay, preparation is key. Preparation is key. You don't prepare, you've already failed. Prepare for your examination. These exams demands adequate preparation and attention to detail. Okay, so if you don't prepare adequately, you are going to have a problem. So start preparing on time, allocate time for yourself, and avoid selective study. Pay attention to detail. Some of you enter the exam room with the view, okay, fine. If I don't find it, maybe, of course, I'll find question 1, 2, 3 phrased like this. You get the shock of your life. Read from cover to cover, because that manual was designed by experts and is also industry approved. Meaning that we are supposed to know everything in that manual. Okay? For you to be a certified person Okay, by Zika. They are not just training people who will not understand what they are doing. Okay? So understand the manual from cover to cover and avoid selective study. Gunning doesn't work for this course, colleagues. It will never work. Okay? I want us to look at the case analysis and scenario questions. Believe me, you'll find them. Yes, they're always there. And the reason why they're there, they're not meant to throw you off. We're just looking at whether you've understood the principles you're supposed to understand or not. Because those are some of the core issues which happen in the industry. And as such, scenario questions are drawn from industry. And these scenario questions are basically anchored on a particular legal principle, which is in the Zika manual, or a particular case which you have to read and understand, which is in the Zika manual. Okay? What we don't expect from you, I will be frank. We don't expect you to regurgitate the whole case. Okay? From a case, find out what the principle is from that case. Find out what the application is good for you after understanding the case. For instance, you are given a scenario, right? Understand the scenario, read it. Is it on directors? Okay? Once you just see that a director erred or did something beyond their scope of power so conferred on them, what are you supposed to do? Quickly, as a governance law student, go to the law regulating directors. That is Section 86 and Section 87 of the Companies Act. Okay, find time and read it. There is always a question. And by the way, like I said, a company cannot do things on its own. It acts through people. And these people I've mentioned, some of them are actually directors. Okay, these directors are basically agents of the company. Are we clear? They are agents. And you recall that an agent is somebody who acts on behalf of the other, right? Good. So an agent can only do insofar as permitted by the principle. Yes. So this fictitious person who's now a company expects loyalty from the director. No wonder directors are always there in the exam. The common law principle as expounded in the case of Shaw versus Shaw. Read that case, it is there in the Zika manual. It's summarized for your own good, by the way. Get the principle from that case, and then you read the scenario. Was there some ultra-vires activity by the director? Did the director maybe act beyond the scope of their duty? If so, what does the law provide? That's what now corporate governance deals with. Are we together? Yes. So you should know. If they are dealing with third parties, what does the law say vis-a-vis regarding the action of the director and the third parties? The law has already defined itself. It seeks to protect third parties through and through. Are we together? So try and look at that. So do not regurgitate facts as law as far as cases are concerned. All you need to do is to state the case, the principle, and the application of the case to the facts. For instance, you cite Solomon and Solomon in an exam. Of what value is it to me? As a marker, maybe. Okay? It becomes of value if you as a student, you say, look, when Muvanga and Chanda incorporated a company, such a company became a legal persona at law, and it is now liable for its own activities as was seen in the case of Solomon versus Solomon. Full stop. Don't start bringing out the facts what happened, blah, blah. Don't do that. It's a waste of time. Okay? By you just stating that you have brought out the principle, that the company now becomes liable for its own activities, and the agents are only liable insofar as they go beyond the power conferred on them. But if they are within the power conferred on them by the company, they are not liable. The company is liable. Even the members, the shareholders, they are not liable. They only become liable if the veil of incorporation is removed and the law is clear on why it should be removed. So you see, corporate governance must be approached from this angle. You're not dealing with a sole trader. You're dealing with a human being at law. Okay? This is a person at law. So, having looked at that, apply the facts. Apply the principles to the facts and do that. So, I want to also draw your attention to how effectively you can study some of these cases, okay? Switch off your phone, okay, as you are reading these cases, and have a piece of paper where you are writing down, jot the important points from there, okay? Use flashcards and identify keywords. Remember, I already echoed that they are command words. So, identify keywords, underline them. You may even use different colors and so forth, and by so doing, you'll be preparing yourself for the examination, okay? Group works are important, okay, for one to avoid misleading oneself. With the advent of technology, you may not necessarily need to meet. You can use Zoom or Google Meet as colleagues who are studying this course, okay, and have some discussions over a topic. Okay, once you study a topic, like I said, ensure to look at the Zika study kit. Do that. And pick a question on that particular topic and attempt following principal application guide. By so doing, you'll be good to go. Now, I want to look at issue of time management as a student. It's very difficult, I know. But for you to pass this course, allocate at least, at a minimum for this course, 1 hour per day of study. Do so. If you can, even 1 hour, 30 minutes will be advisable. And as you are studying, study with breaks in between. Don't just read as if you are reading a novel. No. Pick up the key principle, refresh, and try to recall it without looking at any book. Okay? Do that. And do not study the whole night before the examination. Yes, colleagues, I'll repeat that. Do not study the whole night before the examinations. You will crash. Okay? Never do that. No wonder I said start preparing now for your examinations. Then you'll be good to go. You need to rest and enter the exam fresh. Okay? Avoid red eyes. It's not a sign of great intelligence. Don't do that. Okay? You need to rest. You need actually to prepare on time. But now, I want to take you to exam time management and what to do during the exam. Read the instructions carefully and follow them to the letter. Okay? Instructions are part of the exams, and failing to follow instructions is failing the exam itself. Am I clear? Colleagues, read the instructions in the paper. Okay? Follow them to the letter. For failing to follow instructions is failing the exam itself. Instructions are part of the exams. Okay? After reading the examinations, I'll give you this tip. As crazy as it might be, read the compulsory question last. Yes. For this course, read the compulsory question last. Why? Because a compulsory question is well thought of. And it's extremely tricky. Remember, apart from you being an expert, all you need to do is to pass this exam at times. So go to section B. You'll find questions which are not as rigid as question 1. Now, if you start with question 1, you spend 2 hours on question 1. Quite all right, you may get almost all the maximum marks, but you can't pass the exam with only one question. Okay? You need to start with section B. If possible, finish quickly. The instructions on the exam, they have been so clear. They don't tell you which question to start with. They tell you that you must answer question 1, which is compulsory. But it is not mandatory for you to start with it, by the way. Okay, so go to section B. Answer what you can. And please don't be a hero. Don't go for difficult questions. Okay? And also a tip right there. If you find what you have read and prepared for, ideally, don't spend much of your time on it. Look at the marks weightage. Okay? If the question is carrying 5 marks, sure, is it in order for you to write 4 pages? Because you've understood the principle? You will not be given 20 marks for writing 4 pages on a question worth 5 marks. You'll be given your 5 marks duly. But the danger is you may not actually clear the exam. This tip goes to those who prepared on time. Okay? Who happen to know everything in the paper. I have seen it. Some students, they happen to know everything in the paper. But the danger also is that they don't finish writing. Now, I have a sample here. It's based on directors. The reason why I've picked on this is because it constitutes about 60% to 70% of your examination. It always do. Let's assume you notice that Chanda, a company director, did buy goods from Bata Limited, right? Beyond the approved company threshold, okay? And the company is rejecting the goods relying on ultra-vires doctrine. What will be your approach here, okay? Understand this, that a company acts through two bodies of people, its shareholders and its board of directors. So, they've been given authority to act on behalf of the company. So they are acting on behalf of the company. Don't say that they are wrong, okay, from the onset. They've been given an authority to act on behalf of the company. Not I said, read section 86 and 87 of the Companies Act. Read it, okay? You should be done reading it in less than 10-15 minutes. So find time and look at it. So the board of directors must understand what they do. These are the company agents, okay? So your role as an individual, okay, in this examination is to exhibit the liability of the company and that of directors. At what point are directors liable? And at what point is the company liable? Well, listen, the company is supposed to indemnify its agents, huh? Yes. It's supposed to indemnify the directors. So at what point is the company liable, and at what point are the directors liable? Homework for you. Do that for me. And I think you will do well in your exam if you do that. So, what should you exhibit there in a scenario setup? Like the one I've just given you, okay? You are supposed to deal with the actions of directors as propounded in the case of Shaw versus Shaw. You look at section 23, 24, 25, 86, and 87 of the Companies Act. Then you'll be done. Look, there's a case which is in the Manual under directors. That is the TAC1 rule. Look at it. We call it the indoor management, meaning that the third parties are not affected by the in-house dealing of companies. Okay? So, in this regard, the company still remains liable. Okay? In the brief scenario I gave you. Right. So, you discover that there are so many examples which are right there in the Zika manual. Read them, look at them, and go also to the sample answer. You'll be good to go. So, what I expect you to do, you find that maybe a question is saying, advise the parties as to their rights and obligations, 10 marks. Define corporate governance, 5 marks. Explain in detail the concept of good governance. Explain in detail the concept of corporate good governance. Now listen to this. If you look at these questions critically, they are building on top of each other. Okay? If you fail to understand, okay, what corporate governance is, it simply means that you can't advise the parties. So you must start by defining what corporate governance is, and also look at the concept of good corporate governance, understand the role of the corporate government players and who they are. Then you'll be able to answer these questions without any difficulty. Okay? So it is as simple as that. That's how life has been made easy for you. So, for instance, if a question asks you to advise the parties, the mistake of you students is not addressing the questions asked. You start writing your own things. So advise the parties as to their rights and obligations. Listen, advise, underline that word. The parties, underline that word parties. Okay? As to their rights, underline the term rights. And obligations, underlined as well. And ask yourself this question. Do you understand the rights and obligations of directors in relation to the company? If you don't, refer to the Zika manual and read and understand. That's all the answers are. Okay? And also look at the sample questions and solutions which have been provided for you. You'll be good to go. Okay? So you find that, like I've already said to you, section 86, 85, and 87 of the Companies Act, read in tandem with the case of Shaw versus Shaw and the TAC1 rule, and also section 22, 23, 24, 25, and even 26 of the Companies Act. You may also add section 27 and section 17. You will not struggle in this course. Those are the key issues. We are dealing with a company here. Okay? So I expect you colleagues not to struggle. I don't expect you to struggle. Okay? So, when approaching these questions, always have in your mind the definition of corporate governance, analyze the situation at hand, and apply the principles thereof. Which principle? Okay? Case, principle, application. These must actually be addressed as you are answering your question. Look also at the weightage of the question, as I've already said, and advise all the parties. So you need to identify the parties in that particular question. What are their rights? Who are they? What the question is leading, it will tell you, MM Limited incorporated on such and such a date, appointed Mr. Mlenga as a director. That is a clear lead to you that Mr. Mlenga is supposed to act only in the best interest of the company. What if he does act outside the interest of the company? What happens? He becomes liable, right? But now, should a third party lose out because Mr. Mlenga acted beyond the powers conferred on him? No. Okay? But the reason for me to give you a big no is simple. Read the case of RBB versus Taekwondo, the Taekwondo rule into management. It will tell you that third parties are not affected by in-house dealings of particular companies. Okay? So, for you to get the full marks on such questions, ensure that you answer it in full. Okay? Look at the sample answer for your guidance. I don't expect you to struggle with this. Okay? Deal with all the issues which are incidental to the companies. Now, let me just give you, in a nutshell, the breakdown of topics which you're supposed also to look at. Look at capital and financing of companies. Share capital. Distinguish it, okay, between different types of capital which can be availed for a company. Explain the differences between different classes of shares, okay? Know these things. Issues of capital maintenance, alteration of maybe articles, reduction of share capital. Which laws? The Companies Act will guide you. Just go to section 50 somewhere there to 57. Then you'll be good to go. Okay? Understand also the role of directors. I've already re-echoed this in full. Okay? We have got 3 main stages in corporate governance. 3 main stages. That is pre-incorporation procedures, post-incorporation procedures, and winding up. Ensure that you know what happens at each stage. Then as a student, you'll be good to go. Okay? I don't expect you to struggle. The format of the exam marks, okay, is already there for you. Okay? Follow the instructions which are given to you. And I expect you to read the Zika DA12 study manual back to back. Okay? The rationale, why then should you read the Zika manual back to back? That is your compass for your examinations, colleagues. And understanding the structure of the exam is halfway victory in this course. Go to section B first, where the questions are less complicated. Remember that when preparing for the exam, all topics will be covered in the examination. Read and understand them well. Okay? In conclusion, what are the common mistakes which most of you find yourselves doing during the exam? Number 1, I've already mentioned it. Most of you don't finish writing your examinations. Number 2, spending too much time on what you know and neglecting other questions. Number 3, failing to answer the question. Always have at the back of your mind, am I answering the question or I'm just writing something which is not relevant? Maybe almost akin to a love letter. Answer the question. Write that which is relevant. Okay? Look at the marks allotted and then answer in a proportionate manner. Okay? Thank you very much, and I hope that these tips and guidance will be of great value to you as you prepare for your examinations.